lot of people have good relationship with people they love and they're healthy. Assume you have that. What matters? Three things. One, you do need to have some higher purpose in life. Why am I doing this? I mean, people work hard. The people listening to us right now typically are very hardworking people. Well, why? Why are you working hard? You need an answer to the question, why am I doing this, number one? What is my higher purpose? Two is you do need to achieve, and hopefully achieve in a manner that's consistent with your higher purpose. You're not going to stop achieving. What are you going to do? So you need to have some achievement that's aligned with your higher purpose. And three, you need to enjoy the process of life itself.
Welcome, everyone, to the Greg McKeown Podcast, where we explore principles and practices for living and leading as an essentialist. Today, I'm truly honored to be joined by a guest whose influence on leadership and personal development is, I would say, unparalleled right now in the world, Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. Marshall is the only two-time Thinkers 50 number one leadership thinker in the world. That is, he's won that honor twice. It's a remarkable achievement in its own right. For over a decade, he's been recognized as the number one executive coach in the world. He's guided over 150 major CEOs and their management teams to new heights of effectiveness. I so want to get into that. He's also the number one New York Times bestselling author. He's written 56 books, if my research is right, which is really quite a thing, and sold over 3 million copies along the way. What got you here won't get you there is one of the, most significant books that he's written. Mojo's another, Triggers is another, The Earned Life is another. But he's on a different kind of journey right now. He's very interested in how we can democratize leadership learning through the power of AI. And his latest venture, MarshallGoldsmith.ai, represents a leap into the future, an investment into the future. And as I understand it, an initiative that began before ChatGPT, before these things. There was already work that was being done to try to get all of this great insight out to the world. Marshall, it's a privilege to have you on the show today. I'm excited to jump into this groundbreaking new work. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. I am a fan of yours, so thank you for inviting me.
Tell me, give me like the Reader's Digest version of how you got here. And by here, for those that don't know your story, how did you end up doing executive coaching and doing it in such a decade upon decade way? What's the story?
Well, I started out, I was a very unlikely candidate. I'm from a very small town in Kentucky called Valley Station, Kentucky. I was brought up very poor. My dad had a dumb idea women shouldn't work, so we got to be very, very poor. We had a little gas station. But my mother's entire life was devoted, since she had no other students, to teaching me. So I knew how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide before I went to school. So you can imagine the first day of school, the teacher goes, 1 + 1 is 2. I'm going, yeah. No one knows it but me. I said, life is good. Life is good. So then I went to, I was always attitudinally challenged, right? I had a bad attitude for most of my young life. I go to college, undergrad school, a little engineering school, Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology, where I was almost thrown out. I made 5 Ds, barely graduated. But last year I went back and gave the commencement speech and got an honorary Ph.D. And the first thing I said was, let's hear it for the bottom of the class. Hey, you don't know. You never know. Then I got an MBA at Indiana University and a Ph.D. at UCLA. I was a college professor and dean when I was very, very young. Then for the next 47 years, I did 3 things. One, I've traveled all about the world speaking and teaching. So I've been to 102 countries, and on American Airlines alone, I have over 11 million frequent flyer miles. So I'm a mega flyer.
Mm-hmm.
I like speaking and teaching. That's fun for me. Then I coach people. As you said, I've been the coach of the CO Ford and Pfizer and Glaxo and the World Bank, the Mayo Clinic, UAE leaders, Saudi Arabia, all around the world. And what I like about coaching is I learn so much. Although I'm supposed to teach them, I always learn much more than I teach. And then I write books and articles, as you mentioned. I've done 56 books. Most of these are purchased only by my mother, my father, and relatives. So I've done 4 New York Times bestsellers. The rest of them haven't sold many copies, but a
Mm.
few of them sold 3 million copies. So that was good. And then let's see, anything else? I went to a program called Design the Life You Love, and the woman said, "Who are your heroes?" So my heroes are very kind and generous people who never charged me money for anything. They're great teachers. She said, "You should be like your heroes." I decided to donate all I know to 15 people for free. And the only price is when they got old, they had to do the same thing, pay it forward.
Mm.
So I made a little video and put it on LinkedIn. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, I thought 100 people would apply, and I'll adopt 15. 18,000 people applied.
Mm. Wow.
So now I've adopted. I'm sure you probably may know Chester Elton or Whitney or some of the people. You should join our group, by the way. It's a wonderful group of people called the 100 Coaches. So just an amazing group. And, we just do nice things for people, and it's very good. And now I'm working on my big project, as you described, MarshallGoldsmith.ai. I always wanted to give away all my material, but I always failed. You mentioned I've been working on this for years. I have been with no progress. I mean, we're talking zero. I tried everything. I tried interactive video. I tried all kinds of computer programs and all this stuff. Nothing worked until the last year or so. And now it's amazing. What's happened has just been amazing. So anyway, then I got into leadership development. I met a very famous guy named Dr. Paul Hersey. He got double booked. I was smart enough I saw him teach. Said, "Man, this guy's good. I want to be him when I grow up." I followed him around. And basically, I said, I'll serve the coffee and sit in the back of the room, just let me watch you. And I did. And one day he got double booked. He said, "Can you do what I do?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "I'll pay $1,000 for a day." Well, I was making $15,000 a year. I said, "All right, I'll try it. I'll try it." So I did this program for the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company. They are pissed off when I show up because I'm not him, right?
Mm.
But I get ranked first place of all the speakers. I mean, I'm funny, having a good time. All the others are stuffy, boring finance people. They love me. So I said, "Send them again." So that's how I got into leadership development and coaching also by accident. I was working with the CEO of Warner Lambert at the time, big drug company, and CEO said to me, "I got this kid working for us, young, smart, dedicated, hardworking, arrogant jerk." He said, "It'd be worth a fortune. Maybe you could change that kid's behavior." I said, "I like fortunes." I remember the previous talk. "A fortune, good. Maybe I can help it." He said, "I doubt it." I said, "I'll work with the kid for a year. He gets better, pay me. Don't get better, it's free." There was nothing called coaching. I just made it up. Well, I worked with the kid for a year. He got better, and I got paid.
Mm. You at the time, so you were part of before it was the Wild Wild West. The coaching sort of was in the, I don't know, let's say 90s to early 2000s. There's no certification, there's no any structure. You were before that. You
Right.
you were saying, okay, there is no such thing. Let's name something because there's obviously a need, and therefore have been at the forefront of the development of it since.
I didn't even come up with the name.
Mm. Mm.
I didn't. I just did what I was doing.
Do you still spend time one-on-one coaching CEOs and executives, or is that more of a
Not as much.
yeah?
Not
You
not too
speak you
much.
speak most
Now,
of the
right
time
now,
now.
my goal right now is to do bigger things. So I would like to maximize impact in the broader world right now. And I mean, I still, when I do everything I do, is I try to ask, is there a legacy to this?
Hmm.
Is it part of a legacy project? I'm 75, so most of my life is legacy,
Mm.
and what's the legacy of being there when you're not there?
Hmm.
So is what I'm doing really contributing to some legacy as opposed to just work? And all my work has been fun. I enjoyed it, but now I'm really a little more sensitive to saying, is there a legacy here? And most of my coaching, I coach with other people. I'm more of a mentor coach, and they do actually most of the work, and I'm just sort of coaching with them. I also
Mm.
do teaching. I'm doing another one of my volunteer programs here in Nashville this week with about 140 people. I'm teaching them all I know for free for 100 of them, and then 40, I'm teaching them to teach what I know for free. So
Mm.
basically, I'm kind of in the give back phase of life.
Well, you've already named the word legacy. I assume then that the AI project really is an extension of that. How do I operate in the time I have remaining in this life in such a way that the ideas can live on even when I'm not here producing the fuel and energy to take those ideas around. Am I hearing it right? What did I get wrong?
You got it right. You got it right. So that's basically it.
Let me ask you this. When you think about all of these successful leaders that you've worked with, in your experience, like, what is the most common barrier that prevents leaders from focusing on what truly matters?
I was asked this question in the Harvard Business Review. What's the number one problem of all those successful people you coach over the years? My answer is pretty simple: winning too much. Winning too much. What does this mean? If it's important, we want to win. Meaningful win, critical win, trivial win, and not worth it, win anyway. Winners love winning. My whole coaching is not fixing losers. I'm in the helping winners business. My clients are not losers. They are giant winners. Well, it's hard for winners not to win. Now, I'm going to give you a case study that almost all of my clients fail, and I will predict you too have failed this case study. Are you ready?
Ready.
You want to go to dinner at restaurant X. Your husband, wife, friend, or partner wants to go to dinner at restaurant Y. You have a heated argument. You go to restaurant Y. It was not your choice. The food tastes awful and the service is terrible. Option A, critique the food. Point out our partner was wrong. This mistake could have been avoided if you would only listen to me. Option B, shut up. Eat the stupid food. Try to enjoy it and have a nice night. What would I do? What should I do? Almost all of my clients, what would I do? Critique the food. What should I do? Shut up. Shut up. Now, as bad as that is, I'm going to give you another one that's even worse. You may have also done this. You have a hard day at work, a hard day. You come home, your husband, wife, friend, or partner is there, and the other person says, I had such a hard day. I had such a tough day. And we reply, you had a hard day. You had a hard day. Do you have any idea what I had to put up with today? You think you had a hard day? We're so competitive, we have to prove we're more miserable than the people we live with. I gave this example to my class at the Dartmouth Tug School. A young guy raised his hand. He said, I did that last week. I asked him what happened. He said, my wife looked at me. She said, honey, you just think you've had a hard day. It is not over.
Yes, it's going to get worse. Now, doubling down, though, not just what is the biggest mistake you see these people making, but specifically what gets in the way of them doing what matters most. Is it the same answer? You just think it's just being too competitive? Go ahead.
Let me give you a nuance on that.
Yes.
It goes back to what you do. First, the people I coach all want to get better. I'm not in the religious conversion business. People ask me, how do I convince people to change? I don't convince anybody to change anything. I've learned a hard lesson. My name is Marshall Goldsmith, not Jesus Christ. I'm not in the savior business here. If somebody needs saving, I'm not going to help them, right? I only work with dedicated people who want to get better. Now, what do they need to make that happen? 3 things. Courage. It takes courage to look in the mirror. Humility. It takes humility to do all this. They got to admit you got a problem. All my clients have to publicly apologize for their mistakes. It takes a little humility. It takes discipline to do this hard work. Now, let's say I'm working with a person who is highly dedicated. They want to get better, and they still don't do it. Why? Now, this goes back to what you do. They are busy. They get so bombarded with crap, they don't get to it. Now, I'm going to share a dream that explains why people don't do what I teach. And this dream is more consistent with what you do than what I do, so you should like this dream. By the way, I bet even you have had this dream. Although you write books about this stuff, I bet even
I'm
you
looking forward to this. I'm so curious already.
Here's what the dream sounds like. You know, I'm incredibly busy right now. Given pressures of work, home, new technology, and new opportunities, I feel about as busy as I ever have. Sometimes I feel overcommitted. I don't tell others this, but occasionally my life feels just a little out of control. But you know, I'm working on some very unique and special challenges right now, and I think the worst of this is going to be over in 4 or 5 months. And after that, I'm going to take 2 or 3 weeks and get organized and spend some time with the family and begin my new healthy life program. And after
Mm.
that, everything is going to be different and it will not be crazy anymore.
Now,
Have,
this is the dream you're
have you,
describing for
have you,
yourself here? Are you describing it on the executive's behalf? For anyone, everybody has that dream,
oh yeah,
right?
I'm describing it for millions of
Yes,
people.
yes, I understand. Yes, and you and you're saying that procrastination of creating space to figure out what really is essential, get organized, pursue the things that matter. You're saying it's just too easy for high-powered executives and everybody else to believe that if they just muscle their way through what they're currently dealing with, the future is a place, it's a place of beauty and simplicity where there'll be more space and less urgent fires to deal with and so on. You just believe the future will be different than the past. This is what you're saying.
Ex- well said. All right, now I'm going to ask you a personal question. I, I couldn't wait to talk to you because I wanted to ask you this question.
Ready.
Now, I have people ask me if I have a coach. I've
Mm,
had someone call me on the phone almost every day for 27 years to try to help
mm.
me. Why? My name is Marshall. I'm too cowardly and undisciplined to do any of this crap by myself. I need help, and it's okay. Now, let me ask you a question.
Hmm.
All the crap that you teach and stuff, which by the way, I think is great stuff. As I say, I'm a fan of yours.
There wasn't
I
a
can't
super
imagine.
encouraging beginning of the question, but I like it anyway. Keep going.
I, how much help do you need to do the stuff that you teach all the time?
I think there's two kinds of people in the world, Marshall. I think there are people who are lost, and I think there are people who know they
Yeah,
are lost. And I'm just in the
yeah.
second category.
Me too.
That's, yeah, for real though, right? For real. And when I was growing up, my father, when we were driving, we would get lost a lot. And I remember that my dad would
Yeah,
often
yeah.
say, you know, I just feel it's down here. I just feel that this is the way, you know, and
Yeah, right.
that's, that didn't work out really well. I came to distrust whatever that feeling was. And it sort of by parallel, it's like, look, if you know you're lost, if you admit you're lost, you know what to do. You can stop, you get directions. You don't just get general directions. You wait and you write them all down. You get the details. Then you know that you're not good at this, so you're going to stop again a mile later because you just know you're directionally challenged. Like it's not that hard to solve the problem if you really know it. And I think that's me every morning. Every morning I feel like I wake up full of noise, full of the thoughts of yesterday, the successes, the failures, the unexpected things, the disappointments, the celebrations, all of it, all that change, and it equals a lot of noise. And so, unless I go through a process every morning, which I don't do it every morning, but I do it a lot, and certainly above 50% of the time currently, I'll go through a process of getting that noise out of my head, of of
Right.
trying to connect the dots and then make a prioritized plan. But I just know that I need that, and I think I need it. I think perhaps more above average need that. I don't even think I'm like in the middle. I think I'm probably an outlier for noise and for ideation and for all of that disorientation. And so it's one of the reasons I think I'm attracted to the subjects that I'm attracted to is because I know I need it so much myself. So anyway, there's my answer to your question.
So I feel, well, let me give you my coaching for you. Get somebody to call you on the phone every day.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
do.
Mm-hmm. Who do you
There's
have call
probably
you?
a little bit of shame. Oh, well, it depends. Different people, different times. So
Yeah, I
right
see.
now I have my friend Mark Thompson does it. My friend Mike does it. But different people, different times. I've done it for 27 years.
And what do
And
they do
it's
when they
kind
come
of
on the phone? What do they do? I didn't mean to interrupt you. If there's more, go ahead.
Oh, they just remind me to do the crap I'm supposed to do.
Like
Have you
what? But
done
what do
your
they
daily
say?
questions?
But
Have you done this?
okay, what are those daily
Just that.
questions? What are the daily questions?
Well, my daily questions are all the stuff I'm supposed to do every day, and if I bother to fill out the daily questions, I'm good at it. But somebody has to. I'm like you. Somebody has to remind me to do it. It's not like I don't know the theory. I actually wrote the book, so I kind of understand the theory.
But
Yeah,
teach
it's
it to
just
the
I
rest
don't
of us
do it.
here. Teach it to the rest of us, though. What are those questions that you're? I mean, are they a specific set of questions? Do you have your 5 questions, and they're just trying to help you to have you done it? Did you do it today? Is that Is that the idea?
Well, give me a second. I'll answer it broader and then narrow.
Mm-hmm.
Ready?
Yes.
On a broad sense, just make a list of everything that's important in your life, friends, families, coworkers, whatever. And every day you got a spreadsheet. You put on the spreadsheet 7 boxes are across: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and everything is answered with a number. Yes, a no, or a number. Yes is a 1, no is a 0, or a number. You fill it out every day, right? End of the week, you get a report card. Now, I'm going to warn you in advance, the report card at the end of the week is not as beautiful as a corporate values plaque you see stuck on a wall. I've been doing this 27 years. You do
Mm,
this every day. It's not that
mm,
pretty. You quickly
mm-hmm,
learn life is easy to talk and hard to live. It's
mm.
very hard to live. And then let me give you one of my questions. How many times yesterday did you try to prove you were right when it wasn't worth it? I don't see so many zeros on my scorecard. Kind of hard for the old professor not to be right all the time. Or how many angry or destructive comments did you make about other people? Well, I don't see enough zeros there either. I mean, I don't want people stabbing me in the back. Why am I stabbing them in the back? I
Mm.
mean, just how many steps did you take? Push-ups, sit-ups. How nice were you to your wife, your kids, your grandkids? Just stuff about life, right? Every day, and it's it works. It's just hard to do. The average person quits in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yes, right.
Now,
And so
I'm going to give you.
no, go on.
I'm
Go ahead.
wait. I know you're an expert on one topic. I'm going to give you 6 basic questions. If you do nothing but these 6 questions, you'll have a better life. The majority of people can't do this for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the 6 questions. Number one, and they all begin with the phrase, "Did I do my best to?"
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's why that phrase is important. For example, I ask you, "Were you happy?" and you say no, you'll blame the environment. If I say, "Did you do your best to?" you can't blame
Mm-hmm.
anybody but yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the questions. Number one, every day, did I do my best to set clear goals today?
Mm-hmm.
Number two, did I do my best to make progress toward achieving my goals today? Number three, did I do my best to be happy every day? Did I do my best to find meaning every day? Did I do my best to build positive relationships? And did I do my best to be fully engaged? 6 simple questions every day. Ask yourself the 6 questions, you get better at almost everything.
Do you have
Phenomenally
that?
difficult to do.
Is I love those questions. Do you have those? And I love the "Did you do your best?" framing. Do you have those in a spreadsheet? Are those the questions in your spreadsheet that you're getting? That you're filling out each day? Yeah.
Yes, those
And
are 6 of the questions. Yes.
so there's more. So that's just part of your scorecard for the day. What else is on your scorecard?
Now, before we go on, though, for all the listeners, my advice to you that are listening, don't get overly ambitious here.
Mm-hmm.
If you just do the 6,
It's
do
plenty.
that for a few months and see how that works. Yeah, that's pretty
It's
hard.
plenty.
But anyway, I have small things like, did you floss your teeth? Or, did I do my exercises? Or, um, again, how many steps did I take? Or,
Mm-hmm.
just, also questions like, did I avoid making angry or destructive comments about people? Or, the way I act. I try not to act like a jerk, but I successfully achieve the ability to act like a jerk on many occasions.
And then do you fill it out
What,
no, sorry. I think there's a slight delay. That's all. Um, do
oh
you?
yeah,
What percentage of this year? So since January, what percentage of the time have you filled that out? Is it 190%, 50%? If we actually pulled it up, what would we be looking at?
I'd say 80, 85.
Yeah. And And so you just do it once a day? Do you fill it out once a day? It's like at the end of the day you do a little check-in?
Yeah,
Paper?
once a day.
Paper or
Yeah.
digital?
Oh, I do it usually the beginning of the next day.
Beginning of the next day, part of your
Fill it out.
morning process. What
Yeah,
what
yeah.
have you
I
what
fill it out for the previous day.
Yes, I understand. What is your discovery from having done that for, well, even just this year? So you've done it a couple of hundred times this year. Now that's the data. What's the news in the data for you? What have you learned in that process of doing that for for months now? Just this year, I know you did it before, but what have you learned?
Well, it goes back to me to getting older. You're a lot younger than me. So what I've learned relates to being older. I thought when I got older, worrying about my health and stuff would be less important. What the hell, you're going to die anyway, right? But actually, it's sort of more important.
Sure.
It's actually sort of more important. So it's things like exercise and diet and all that stuff actually is not less important. It's actually more important than it was. So what's dawned on me is, number one, that is more important than it used to be. But number two, it's hard. I'm no better. By the way, I am no better than the people I coach. I have no illusion that I'm better than them.
Yeah, at the but particularly at the health elements that you're referring to right now. You particularly those you're like, it's more important now, but it's like this. But I'm older now too, so that's a frustrating combination. It's it feels a bit more tiring to do it, and it's more important. The gap has grown. The execution gap grows. That's a little painful. Let me ask you this question: in the work that you've done, coaching executives, coaching teams, all through these years, what have you found is the most important thing that they can do to actually work together in a unified, focused way? Like, what gets in the way of doing that beyond what you've already shared? And what can they do to address whatever you see as that primary problem?
Everyone I coach gets confidential feedback. Everyone I coach picks important areas to improve. Everyone I coach apologizes for mistakes. Everyone does a rigorous follow-up basis to get better. What have I learned? One thing. You want to have better relationships with people? You know who you need to work on? You want the team to be better. Everybody in the team who they need to work on. Yeah, get everybody to fix themselves. Yeah, we can all spend a little bit less time fixing everybody else
Sure.
and looking at the person. Yeah, look at the guy in the mirror and say, well, how about that person getting better here? Well, let's fix that guy.
Yeah, I came across this idea. It's not my quote, but it's make sure that your own personal life is absolutely perfect before you try to tell the whole world how it has to reorganize itself. And I thought that was an interesting
I
idea.
certainly, I don't believe that at all, by the way.
Well, I'm interested in your reaction to it, though.
Interesting idea, but I have zero interest in that idea myself. My life is very far from perfect, and that doesn't stop me from giving people advice. And how about you? Your life doesn't seem to be perfect. It doesn't seem to inhibit you any.
Well, the distinction, I think, in their idea, and I may be phrasing it not quite exactly accurately, but the idea is don't presume that you should reorganize the world order. It's not about being able to give feedback or be able to encourage somebody or to work with somebody or to teach something you've learned. I think it was more about this grandiosity that sometimes exists where we say, we have the grand theory of how the world has to be and we should tear it all down. And it's like, well, yeah, but is your life in order? Have you figured that out? Because I felt it supported your point of work on yourself first before just assuming that you should be in charge of the whole thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I understand what you were saying now. I totally agree with that concept. And in one of my books called Triggers, I have a little model. Before you deal with any topic, ask yourself, am I willing at this time to make the investment required to make a positive difference on this topic? If the answer is no, let it go.
Yeah.
All, 99% of all that crap people are worrying about, they're not going to do anything about anyway.
Yeah, I went
Focus
to a
your life on where you can.
Yeah, I went to a conference
Go
recently
ahead.
where I picked up a phrase which is, don't complain, create. And I thought that was a very nice little phrase of this. When you find yourself complaining, whether it's small individual situations you're dealing with or bigger subjects in the world at large, it's like that's just a waste of your time. Can you create something better? If you think that's not being done well, get on and create something instead. I like this. When you think about legacy and the way that you're thinking about it, when you look back at these years, I mean, I have a very specific question, and I don't mean it to be a leading question. But when I hear, for
That's
example,
okay.
the 11 million miles, there's two ways to read that. And on the one hand, of course, what it is a life spent years and years of traveling, working with leaders, working with individuals, teaching, inspiring, helping, all of those things. That's one part of the story. But it's also a lot of time away from people too. And I don't know at all whether you look at it and say, oh, maybe the ratio, now that I'm looking in from a legacy point of view, or now that I'm 75 looking at it, I would have changed the ratio a bit on the travel, or whether you go, no, I really did that intentionally, deliberately, and I wouldn't change a thing about it. What's your reaction?
When my daughter Kelly was 11 and my son Brian was 9, I asked my daughter, what can I do to be a better father? My daughter said, well, you travel a lot, but that's not what bothers me. What bothers me is the way you act when you come home. You talk on the phone, you watch sports, you don't spend much time with me. And she
Right.
says, I wanted to go to a party at my friend's house, and you didn't let me go. I just stay home and spend time with you, and you spend no time with me. That's not right. I decided I was going to track how many days I could spend 4 hours with my family. 1991, 92 days. 1992, 110. 1993, 131. 1994, 135. I made more money the year I spent 135 days, 4 hours with my family, the year I spent 20 days. Okay, now it's January 1, 1995. I'm proud. I said, kids, look, 135 days, 4 hours with daddy. What goal this year? Now they're both teenagers. What goal this year? How about 150? They both go, no, no.
We've had enough. It's too much.
Let,
Travel a bit more.
let's have a cutback.
Did
Yeah,
you did you
let's have
did
a
you
cutback of daddy.
did you ever take your children with you? Did you ever take one of your children with you on these
Oh, yeah.
trips, or was that very often? Occasionally.
Well, we went on, for example, we went on 9 cruises together.
And was that to do with I don't
So
mean
I
travel,
like,
but I don't mean travel generally. I mean when you were traveling for work, when you were doing the keynotes and so on. Did you ever have them come with you in that? I'm just curious. Not really.
not too much.
Yeah.
They found it boring.
Yeah. Did they? Is that true? They came and they found it boring. I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I'm their father. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have kids?
Yeah. Four. That's what.
Yeah.
This is
Do
why
they love listening to you? Did,
I've had them travel with me. Somebody gave me this really great idea like years ago, and so I did start doing it, and so for the last 10 years, I've had about 80% of the time when I travel, I'll have one of the children come with me or my wife come with me, and we built a whole routine
oh,
about
that's
it. Now,
good.
but no, I feel bad even saying no. But I feel bad saying it because now it sounds like I'm giving myself just the compliment. But that's why it surprised me when you said, oh well, they kind of found it boring, because that hasn't been how it's been for our children. It seems like they've just enjoyed being in these different places in the world and meeting people, and they come to the events and they even answer questions in the room, and it's been quite a fun thing. But anyway, I was just curious about the reaction, because it's a world we both live in, this world of travel and trying to balance these dynamics. But any thoughts or reactions to it?
Yeah, I never really thought that much. I'd say they were never that anxious to do that, so it's
Yeah.
not a big deal to me. Looking back on my life, I'm often asked a question, what would I change? Yeah, I would change nothing. Why? Look, I like science fiction shows. And if you get rid of the mistakes you made, you get rid of everything you learned from the mistakes. And so who knows if you'd be better off. Look, the end result here is fine with me. I'm happy with my life. I've had a good life. I was brought up phenomenally poor in some, very much low income, low education environment. And we had an outhouse the first 4 years I was in school. And I have a great life. So what would I change? Nothing. Yeah, I
Really?
made tons of mistakes, but I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I remember asking somebody about that years ago when I'm 20 years old, 1920, and there's a leader not much older than me, but I was reporting to him, and I asked him that question. Oh, what would you change? Nothing. And it really startles me when people say that. So I'm even more startled in a way to hear it from you, not in a critical way, but just because of your emphasis on coaching and learning and asking questions and improving. I understand the idea that you're saying, look, we learn from mistakes. So of course, if you remove the mistakes, then you're also removing the learning. And I do get that. But the question, if you were doing it over again, isn't quite the same as that. Because if you're doing it again, you get to start with the wisdom you have now. And then I suppose, let me ask it in that way. Not if you were literally, starting from scratch without your current knowledge. That's a different question. But if you had to start it over now with your current knowledge, with all the growth and development, what would you do differently? Would you still say the same?
Well, and again, you're assuming I would have my current knowledge, wisdom, whatever you want to call it, without
Yes,
making
that's
all
what
these
I'm giving to you.
mistakes.
I'm saying I'm choosing the scenario. If you could, with that wisdom, what would you do differently?
I don't think you could, because I think really the pain from the mistakes is what makes you learn, and you can't kind of wish that away. So as I said,
Okay, I'm going to take one more shot at this. I'm going to take
Look,
one more shot. But so let's say you get to live another life, right? Like you're just a second life. Yep. So kind of Buddhist idea, right? Like, or you say, okay, I'm going to get to start again, but I'm still me, and I'm gonna.
Right.
What's the learning from all the pain? What when you say you learn from the pain? What's the learning? What is it that you would address differently now with that knowledge?
If I had to do it in the way you described it,
Yes.
which I
It's
think
different.
is statistically unlikely, but that's okay. If I had to do it in the way you described it hypothetically,
Yes.
then I would say I wouldn't be such a dick for most of my life.
Okay, so that's an interesting phrase, and I'm surprised at that answer too. But I like of course, we all like the self-depreciation of it. But what do you mean by that? If you don't mind, like,
I'd be,
what's
I'd be,
the shift that would take
I'd be
place?
much nicer.
Just kinder to people.
I'd be a nicer guy.
to
Kinder,
to
yeah.
to so okay, but the version that I see in front of me, right, and I think the version that appears in your books and so on is nice. So does it mean that there was a phase that
That version was not written when I was under 25 years old.
so there we go. You're saying there was a period under 25, and I don't need to. I'm not trying to pry to things that you'd rather not share. I'm just saying there was a period of your life you say, oh yeah, if I would, I would. I have learned by those experiences to be kinder. I want to just be kinder to people, based on the the painful lessons we learn in life. The suffering teachers. C.S. Lewis talked about this. He said we wish we could learn from all the good times and the good things. He says, but pain is the teacher. We wish it wasn't true, but by God, he says, we learn. And I think that's the spirit of what you're saying there. What is the most...
Look, when I was...
Go ahead.
When I was 14, I was the first in my class to be arrested for drunken, disorderly conduct.
Oh, is that right?
I was not a role model. I was not a role model as a little boy.
Yes, I see.
Yeah.
That's one of those... That's like an insight that's like it's one sentence, but it's a whole volume that you're expressing when you share that. There's a lot that goes with that, but that's really curious too. That there was a transition point, and I'm sure it wasn't just a single moment, or maybe it was. Maybe you can tell us, but that's a pretty different. You said, "Oh, we grew up poor and so on," but what you just said was that's more than that. And then you're saying, pre-25, alluding to that. What was there a moment of change for you? A single moment, or was there just a growth, a maturation?
I would say more of an evolutionary process. See, I've been studying Buddhism. I've read 400 books on Eastern philosophy, Buddhism, Hinduism, etc. So that's a lot of years of study. I started that when I was 19. So,
did someone introduce you to that?
As I've grown old. In college, I started studying it. Yeah, it was young, and so I think that helps a lot, because if you study Buddhism, basically you learn, make peace with what is. I think really it helps in many ways to become, at least for me, it has helped. I'll speak for myself. It's helped me in many ways. I'm not a religious Buddhist or a spiritual Buddhist. I'm a philosophical Buddhist. And Buddha basically was I don't know if there was a Buddha, but the metaphorical Buddha was brought up in a very positive environment. His father was rich and tried to give him more and more. He lived in a bubble, and he was able to sneak outside 3 times. The first trip out, you know what he learned? People get old. He said, that's no good. Trip number 2, you get sick. Ugh. Trip number 3, you die. Ugh. Old, sick, die. Very bad. He said, all this more doesn't help. So then he went out in the woods and tried to be happy with less. Starved himself. Didn't work. Finally realized one thing. There's only one place you can find happiness and peace. Here. There's only one time. Now. So for everyone listening to us right now, I will now explain the concept of nirvana. Are you ready? They didn't know they were going to get this. Are you ready, listeners? Where is nirvana? Nirvana is listening to 2 guys talk on a podcast right now. Here it is. It's not out there. This is it. Be happy now.
What in this now, what's most important now to you? I don't even mean the legacy question. I mean, right now. What is most important to you?
Make peace.
With yourself, with other people,
with life, with everything.
Is that a yes then, myself and others?
Yeah.
But beyond that as well.
Be happy.
Be happy. Is there a let me ask you this question. Of all the things that you've taught, all these books, all these question sets, the tools, what is the tool, like the question or the tool that has been most useful to people? The thing that has by evidence of the number of times people have said to you, "Oh, thank you for that," or the number of times they've used it, or it's been cited by others. Like, what's the tool, you know? And I'll just give you a moment as you're thinking about that, because, of course, as a teacher, as an author, I mean, none of us ever write anything we don't think is going to be useful. Like, that's the point of the exercise. It's something that you think's interesting, can be immediately tangible for somebody, help them with what they're dealing with. And yet, nevertheless, it's surprising. You know, you already alluded it to with 4 of the New York Times bestsellers. There's certain books that hit and connected in a different way, and it's almost mysterious. You always don't know why precisely when you put the same amount of effort into the different projects. But out of all of those, not just the books, but the tools within them, what has been the most useful tool to people?
I would say, on a business sense, it's get over being perfect, find out what everyone thinks of you, admit you're a human, apologize for your mistakes, and work on getting better. So that's from that perspective. As a coach perspective, very simple. Work with great people. I mean, that's 100% of coaching. I got ranked #1 coach in the world for years. Nobody knows I'm a good coach. I can say one thing with absolute certainty. I have had the #1 clients in the world. I've had the #1 clients in the world. And if you work with those people, you're going to look like a good coach. So the key is work with them. You're going to look real good. And then on a human dimension, I may sound slightly politically incorrect, but I'll give you the 2 things that I found that people said really changed their lives beyond being better leaders and, you know, teams and all that stuff. One is have kids. And 2 is forgive your parents. And I guess number 3 is forgive yourself for being human. Forgive yourself for being human.
Well, there's a 3 beautiful insights. I think there was a time when the idea, well, have kids, was so normalized, self-evident.
Right.
That, like, even if we'd been talking, I don't know, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, and you say that, it's like, yeah, look, everybody knows that kind of a feeling. You know, we all know family is the most important thing, and most important relationships, most important investment. But I literally was just sent a book to review. I won't say the book because I'm about to critique it, but it led me on a journey and the discovery of something that's called antinatalism. And it's a new philosophical term. It didn't exist very long ago. And first of all, it defines natalism, you know, that's a thing, the belief that having children is good. And antinatalism is the belief that it's not, of course. But to me, there was something very profound about the idea that somebody thought it was, you know, let's codify this. Let's give it language, name, structure. We think this is what we ought to teach into the world. It's different than saying, you know, it's different than each to their own. It's different than there's trade-offs involved here. It's a different kind of thing. And the advice you just gave is really all 3 things would be pro intergenerational relationships. You know, that's what it sounds like to me. Your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, maybe the question's fresh on my mind. I just got an email today from a guy, and he said, you know, we talked a long time ago, and he told me to have kids, and I have 2 kids, and thank you. I wasn't sure I was going to, and I'm so happy I did. Another guy said, I adopted kids, and I'm so happy I did. Thank you. And look, this is not thousands of people. And you just asked me, what has had the biggest impact?
I did, yes.
That's one right there. By the way, the opposite has never happened. No one ever said, I'm sorry I had kids. Why did you give me that advice?
Mm.
That has never happened.
Mm.
It's been 100%. Because some people are kind of don't know, whatever. I've talked to them. The second thing is forgiveness. Forgiving your parents is a big deal for so many people.
Mm.
They haven't forgiven their parents. Okay, you're 50 years old. Come on. Sometimes they're dead. They're dead. Let it go, right? And then just forgive yourself for being a human. Look, so many people, I'll just say
Mm.
privately, raise your
Mm.
right hand, repeat it for me. My name is, I forgive myself for just being human. They do it, they start crying.
Mm.
They just start crying. They've never
Yeah,
forgiven themselves for just being human.
it's really beautiful. Really. One of the things that's beautiful about it, what you just said, of course, the major is forgiveness, but the minor was the behavior of saying it. Because I used to think forgiveness was the whole process of feeling the relief and giving way to the healing and the goodness and feeling good about that person, the parents or whoever it is, yourself. But the way you just described it's how I understand it now, which is that it's an act, it's a thing. I don't mean it can't be both, but that moment of actually saying out loud, I forgive that person, I forgive my parents, I forgive myself. Like there is a version of it that's an action, and that the feeling comes later. Maybe we don't even have control over it, but the action is something we can directly control, and that to me was something not to be missed in the example you shared.
Yeah, I would say that at least 100 times I've said to someone, please raise your right hand, repeat after me. My name is, I forgive myself for just being human. And they just started crying.
Are you doing that in a live event? You're doing that on stage, so you bring someone up,
No,
or you mean just
no,
you mean
no.
just? Of course, I understand, but I
One on
wanted to
one.
clarify.
I would
Yes, I
never, I would
understand.
never do that in a
No,
public.
it's too
Yeah,
sacred, too
no.
vulnerable, all of those things. But I wanted to visualize it properly. So this is in a coaching practice
Yeah,
situation. This is professional most of the time, uh, and
yeah.
and how do
Or
you know?
personal.
Or
People,
personal.
People come to visit me all the time. I mean,
Mm.
anyone listening wants to come to my home in Nashville. My email address is marshall@marshallgoldsmith.com. I go for a walk every day. I invite people to come see me all the time. So I talk to people all the time.
Mm.
And,
Sometimes it's those people,
typically I'll
not the
talk to
executives. It's the individuals you meet along the way.
anybody listening to the call right now.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I mean,
I
look,
don't, I don't have to know you.
no, and anybody
I mean,
listening to this who simply says those words, it's almost like we know that the intent behind our language matters, and so if we say things insincerely, okay, that's not the same as saying them sincerely. But words are so powerful in and of themselves that I think even if you say them in a sort of, I don't know if this will work, I don't know if this will be true, I don't know if I believe that this will help, but you still do it. You still say the words. The words now, you can hear those words in your own voice. You can hear it. And I think that in the process of saying something true, it manifests itself to you as true. Then you go, oh, that is true. There's this beautiful little story that I read years ago. I can't find the reference to it now, but it was two children who'd got into a fight, and the I don't even remember the genders now, but one of them runs inside, crying, upset at what's just happened, and the mother's there with them, and said, "Well, tell me what happened and why you're upset." And well, my brother called me stupid. He said I was so stupid, and they said, well, listen, step close to me, and I want to say something to you. I want you to listen to it, and I want you to tell me what you feel when I share it with you. I want you to be able to tell me whether you feel it's true. And she leans forward, and she says, "You are stupid." And the little child, like not expecting that little message coming in, feels within, and like suddenly is light, and he goes, "It's not true. It's not true. I can feel that that's not true. The words hurt because I thought they were, I thought they might be, but I can feel now that they're not." There's something about spoken language that can reveal to us something is true or not true. And I just think there's such a precious little gift of a phrase for every person to be able to use. More on forgiveness, more on other tools that you think have been life-changing, little questions, insights that you think have had the deepest effect, the most lasting legacy impact on those that you have worked with and spoken with?
Yeah, I would say the whole concept of there's a book called The Heart of Business by Hubert Joly. Now, Hubert was the CEO of Best Buy, did one of the great turnarounds in history, and Best Buy was going bankrupt, did a fantastic job. And, Hubert just gets up in front of everybody, talks about what he wants to improve, follows up on a regular basis, and really, he's a guy that went through a really positive transformation. None of this is a secret. It's published all in his book.
Sure.
He talks about having a coach, getting feedback. And he would say just acceptance of being human. And you don't have to put on a show all the time and pretend to be perfect just because you're a CEO. He stands up and says, look, I'm the CEO of this company, but I need you more than you need me. Please help me. Well, people don't feel less about him. They feel more about him, more positive. Also, lead by example. Another great guy I've coached is David Chang. Do you know who David is, the famous chef?
I don't think
Well, anyway, David's a famous chef. Yeah, and anyway, he's got all the videos and stuff. Anyway, David, I'm his coach, and one thing I always tried to work with him on is being happier. And I finally found one thing that really was a breakthrough. That was this. I said, do you want your kids to be happy? He loves his kids. You want your kid to be happy? I love my kids, yes. More than anything in the world, I want my kids to be happy. I said, do you believe in leadership by example? He said, yes. I said, fine, you go first. You want your kids to be happy?
Show them.
Believe in leadership by example. You be happy. And that was for him, boom. That was one that just really hit. Let me give you one other thing that's really good for our listeners, the listeners to us right now. The people listening to us right now, in my book, The Earned Life, I talk about 3 dimensions. Aspiration, which is our higher purpose. Why am I doing this? And it's not a set goal. Then we have our ambitions, which are achievements. What am I achieving? And then we have our day-to-day actions. Historically, some people, a few, are lost up in the high levels. They're talking about life and meaningful things, but they don't do anything, just lots of talk. They're lost in aspiration. The listeners of this podcast are not those people. Other people are really, they're lost in day-to-day activities. They play video games, whatever. The listeners of this podcast are not those people. The people listening to us right now they're lost in achievement. And the one lesson I think is very important for the people listening to us right now is very simple. Happiness and achievement are independent variables. The great Western myth is, I will be happy when, followed by, I get this, I do that, I make this money, I achieve this, the other, sell so many books, some nonsense. I'll be happy when. There is no when. The Buddhist term for this is called the hungry ghost. You're always eating, but you're never full. You're always eating, but you're never full. Well, happiness and achievement are independent variables. Safi Bahcall is a great author. He wrote a book called Loonshots. And over COVID, my friend Mark Thompson and I spent 600 hours with 60 remarkable people in various groups. And they talked about life week after week after week. Well, Safi said, I finally realized happiness and achievement are independent variables. I said, Safi, I'm glad you realize this. You already have a Ph.D. in physics from Stanford. You've written a New York Times bestselling book called Loonshots. You've started 4 businesses, you've made zillions of dollars, and you've consulted to presidents. If that is not enough achievement to make you happy, do you really think a little bit more is going to get it over the line?
Mm.
You really think a little more achievement's going to matter? He said, you're right. It won't.
I was speaking with the
You see, the
Bible.
people listening to us right now are achievers. They're achievers. And the problem achievers have is delayed gratification, work out more, do this, do that, be more effective.
No
I'll be
problem.
happy. Not really.
I was speaking with the biographer for Michael Phelps, and she was sharing how the idea that if in Beijing in 2008 Phelps had won 7 gold medals, he'd have been like the second man on the moon. But getting 8 gold medals
Right.
is like being the first man on Mars. And
Right.
and as the Olympics, at the time of this recording, the Olympics in fact have just ended, and it's known because I was speaking to somebody senior in the Olympics, the U.S. Olympic Committee, and it's a known
Right.
Phenomenon that after the Olympics everybody's depressed. If you won, then you can't maintain the high. If you didn't win, then of course you've got all of that disappointment. It's a known phenomenon, and with Phelps,
Right.
when he won those 8 gold medals, it was the worst thing that could have happened to him. That's the biographer's point of view. Literally the worst thing, because suddenly the whole world wanted him to be, the spokesman of mankind. And he's like, that's not,
Right.
he's not prepared for that. That's not who he is. It's the rest of us. It was this inspirational moment. And then we wanted something from him that, of course, he can't be. Why? He didn't ask to be that, but somehow there was this disconnect. So everywhere he went, he just had this sensation of, I'm just going to let everyone down all the time because they need me to be something I'm not, which comes full circle really to what I think a theme in all of this whole conversation, which is like, no, you forgive yourself for being a human and admit it to people. I think that's really helpful. If you were coaching Michael, I suppose that's what you'd be saying, wouldn't it be? Something like that would be like, just tell people, hey, listen, I'm not the spokesman of mankind. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I struggle with. So I'm not here to give you the answer to like the purpose of everything. That's not who I am. You lead with that. Get comfortable saying it so that people don't, so that you can relieve that impossible standard of that he lived under. Yeah, give us your reaction.
I agree with you. I mean, he's a classic case study of if achievement would make you happy, he'd be the most happy person that ever lived. By the way, Sarah Hirschland is the head of the U.S. Olympic Committee. She was in our group of 60 over time. So, I talked a lot with her, and Curtis Martin was in the group. Curtis was a former National Football League Hall of Fame guy. If you ever had a chance to have him on your call, you should have him. He is an amazing human being. He coaches ex-athletes because they have so many depression, anxiety, ex-NFL stars. Terrible.
So
Terrible.
many problems.
So, you know what he did? This year, Curtis gave a talk to the incoming new people in the National Football League. Curtis is a very deep guy. You know what he said? Think of someone you hate. Think of someone you hate. You want them to have a miserable life. You want them to be miserable for years. Then he said, give them a lot of fame and money when they're very young and watch what happens. That was pretty deep.
It is deep because of the serious lie that we're told. This idea that if I were rich and famous, I mean, particularly now, I mean, my whole lifetime, it's been part of the culture. Oh, if you just achieve these things, there's the rise of achievement and the fall of everything else. I mean, there's definitely a theme around that. I think it's become noticeably, tangibly more money-centric over the last decade than it was before. So much music now is just money. It's literally, that is the theme. If you have the money, then then everything's great. Other than so much evidence, properly researched data shows that that's not the case. including the anecdotes, anecdotally, what we know of people that win the lottery, right? It's exactly the opposite of what people are being promised. Let me ask you one final question here. How do you define success in your life or work, and how does that definition influence the choices you're making about where to invest your time and energy now?
To me, okay, what do you need to have a great life? One, take care of your health. We talked about that. That's not so much what I teach, but that's an important thing to do. Two is friends and family. We talked about that too, because that's really critical. And three, back to money, you do need enough not to be poor. I mean, poor people are not particularly happier. You just need extremely poor, but some, middle, upper, lower middle class thing, you're fine. Assuming you have some, and by everyone listening to us has enough money. Right now, poor people are not listening to this podcast. I mean, I know who listens to this stuff. They're not poor. They're hardworking, dedicated people, right? And typically, a lot of people have good relationship with people they love, and they're healthy. Assume you have that. What matters? Three things. One, you do need to have some higher purpose in life. Why am I doing this? I mean, people work hard. The people listening to us right now typically are very hardworking people. Well, why? Why are you working hard? You need an answer to the question, why am I doing this, number one? What is my higher purpose? Two is you do need to achieve, and hopefully achieve in a manner that's consistent with your higher purpose. You're not going to stop achieving. What are you going to do? I mean, I'm sure you got enough money you could retire. Well, so what, right? What are you going to do? Play bad golf with old men at the country club all day? What am I going to do? Why am I talking to you? I could be playing bad golf with old men at the country club instead of talking to you. Well, I'd rather talk to you. So you need to have some achievement that's aligned with your higher purpose. And three, you need to enjoy the process of life itself. So assuming that, I really am engaged in the process of life, I enjoy it, I feel I'm achieving something and that what I'm achieving is meaningful to me, I have a higher purpose, you won. You won the game of life.
I love the physicality of that, the applaud that goes with it. I love it. Yeah, I resonate with everything you just said. It's quite a Buddhist idea, although it's not unique to Buddhism, but the idea that life is suffering. And, the longer I live, the more I am convinced that almost everyone is suffering almost all of the time. And the question isn't, will I suffer or will life have suffering? And it's how do you respond to the suffering? So that's the comes as standard. What do you do with it? It's not dissimilar to the three reactions that you just described a moment ago. You can numb it, react to everything around you, social media out because you just don't want to face the suffering. So you sort of numb your pain. And any kind of addiction will do. And then you can have the achievement path, which is just more goals, more achievement will suddenly, that you're sort of putting it off. You're saying, well, but the suffering won't be there after this. So you're not doing immediate gratification, but you're sustaining, you're pushing out the suffering for a little longer. And then there's this idea of of higher purpose. You were saying that in the sense of you could get too focused on the philosophy and so on, but now you're referring to it in just the absolute necessity of it. And I think that idea of higher purpose, of finding a meaning that justifies your suffering, is like, I don't know, that's really close to the game of life right there. Go.
I have a slightly different interpretation of Buddhism than you. You use the word suffering, and that is one interpretation of the word. The original term is dukkha. One interpretation of suffering. To me, I think I like the term existential dissatisfaction. It's that just basic dissatisfaction with life itself. And to me, the cure to existential dissatisfaction is to make peace with what is. Make peace with what is. And to make peace, I say forgive others, forgive yourself, make peace. And learn to find peace and happiness where you are, not some out there someplace or some other world or money or status or all that stuff. It's not out there. To me, it's in here.
and what connects all of those together to me is the idea of coming to the truth. You know, it's just what is, not how I wish it was, not what what I wish my parents had been, not what I wish I had done, what I wish I was, what I've achieved. It is coming to the truth. What is the truth of what is the truth, and facing that truth. Any specific suggestions for this coming to peace? You know, you've referenced it multiple times as if we, know how to do that from those words. But there's got to be more that you've uncovered for yourself and others for what that looks like actionably.
Well, let me give you final thoughts. And my final thoughts will deal with this. Great advice for everybody, very simple exercise. Imagine you're 95 years old and you're just getting ready to die. You're 95, you're just getting ready to die. Here comes your last breath. But before you take the last breath, you're given a great gift. The ability to go back in time and talk to the person that's listening to me right now. The ability to help that person be a better leader, much more important, have a better life. What advice would the wise 95-year-old you, who knows what mattered in life and what doesn't matter and what was important and what wasn't, what advice would that old person have for the you that's listening to me right now? Well, whatever you're thinking now, do that. Mm-hmm. Some friends of mine interviewed old folks who were dying, got this question: what advice would you have? 3 themes. Theme number 1, be happy now. Not next week, not next year, now. I mean, time goes fast. How old are you?
46, just turned.
Question. Yeah, 46. I'm almost 30 years older than you. I'm going to help you. Those 30 years go fast.
I believe
Number
it.
1, be happy now. Not next week, not till you're 86. Number 2 is friends and family. You know, and the people you love. Never get so busy climbing that ladder of success you forget the people who love you. It's not like you're doing a good job of that one. And then number 3, if you have a dream, go for it. Because you don't go for it when you're 40, you won't when you're 80. And business advice is much different. Number 1, life is short. Have fun. Enjoy what you're doing. I mean, you seem to enjoy what you're doing. That's good. Nobody's making you do this. Number 2 is do whatever you can do to help people. The main reason to help people has nothing to do with money or status or getting ahead. It's old version, be proud of you because you did. And disappointed if you don't. And finally, go for it. World's changing. Your life's changing. You have a higher purpose. Do what you think is right. May not win. Hey, at least you tried. What the heck? And as I've grown older, see, my mission in life's gotten simpler and simpler and simpler. I will share that mission right now. Are you ready?
I am.
I just hope someone who's listening to us today has a little better life. Just a little better life. And if that happens, it's an incredibly good use of my time.
Well, speaking of that use of your time, Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, thank you for being on the podcast. For everybody listening,
Thank you for inviting me.
For everybody listening, what is one thing that stood out to you? Maybe it's something that Marshall said. Maybe it's something that wasn't said, but you heard within you. What's the news of this episode? And now what can you do about it immediately? Within the next few minutes, a tiny action to be able to, as Marshall just said so well, just make things in your life a little bit better. Thank you, really thank you for listening.